Battling has always been one of, if not the most relevant activity to do in Pokemon games. It is how you become the champion of your region, and it's how you take money off of innocent passersby like youngster Joey, who really just kind of wants to tell you how cool he thinks wearing shorts is. Today, we are going to get into the basics of battling and how it pertains to the official video game championships format of 2v2 battling. Let's get right into it. So here we are going to see our team of 6 ready to go up against the combatants of the other team. The first thing we want to consider here is which Pokemon we are going to start the fight with and in what order more specifically. Now, again, you'll notice that I mentioned these are 2v2 fights, meaning that you'll want to find your perfect pairing, your perfect match to send out onto the field of battle first. We'll get into why here in just a second, but we are going to send out Groudon and Indeedee to start this fight off in that order. Now, once we see the battle begin to unfold a little bit here, the chessboard has now been set. What is happening above us? We see a wall of text. We see enough animations going on the screen to give you a seizure. Let's explain exactly what has happened here. Again, we have 2 Pokemon on the field. Why did we decide to send them out in the specific order that we did? Well, turn order is the first thing you want to remember in Pokemon and how it's determined. So first off, the raw speed stat of Pokemon is generally how the flow of battle will go. If we hover over our Groudon here, we see that it is 85 speed. We hover over Indeedee, see that it has 81. And whenever you hover over opponents, it gives you a range. So we see that Miraidon, even at its slowest, will be faster than both of our Pokemon. And Kyogre, unless it is exactly as slow as our Groudon, will be faster than us as well. Why does this matter? You'll notice earlier I said that we wanted to send out our Pokemon in a specific slot order. So that being on the left is your slot number 1, and on the right is slot number 2. When you're looking over at your opponents, it's the opposite. So it's a bit like Mario Kart Mirror Mode. So grab your brain with 2 hands and steer away from crashing your own ranking, your own elo, whichever term you prefer to use. Now, speed and slot determine the following, such as when your abilities proc, when terrains will proc, and if a Ditto comes out into play, well, who he'll copy. So, why do we have the priority of our own terrain and our weather? Well, again, we wanted to send these out in a specific order. The slot that you put your Pokemon in to start the battle will be the determining factor number 1 as to when your ability will take effect. So we put Groudon in slot 1 so that its weather effect will be the first thing on our side of the field to take effect. And then Indeedee in the second, so that way we could hope that we get the terrain advantage here. So even though on the other side of the field we see a Kyogre and a Miraidon, both perfectly capable of setting up their own weather and their own terrain, we see that the Groudon matches the slot of the Kyogre, meaning that they are both in slot 1 and their abilities will proc as the first thing on their team. But Kyogre being faster, meaning the rain comes down first, Groudon being slower means that his sun overwrites it. Same story being retold in a different way. Miraidon and Indeedee both being in slot number 2, meaning that their abilities will proc second on their respective teams. Miraidon being leagues faster than our Indeedee will have its electric terrain come up just to be reversed and watch the battlefield get a little weird because of our Indeedee being slower. So a lot just happened on that turn 1. Let's explain a bit more of what we just saw. So let's start with ways to affect the speed and thus the flow of battle. We have moves like Tailwind, which is a 4-turn move, including the turn that it was used, that will double the speed of all Pokemon on your side of the field. And how does speed work in Pokemon? Well, it is a dynamically moving stat, meaning that the second speed is changed on the battlefield, it will take effect. So if we have a Pokemon that is generally slower, we use Tailwind to double that speed, and now it is considered to be faster than your opponents. That speed change will take effect immediately, changing the turn order dynamically as it goes, rather than waiting for the next turn to start. So plan it out to where you can have things like Tailwind, maybe swing the flow of battle in your favor by using it before anything else even has a chance to move. Next up, we have the antithesis of Tailwind, which is my favorite gimmick in the game, Trick Room. It's a bit like setting a saw trap up for your opponent, where it will take a whole team effort to survive, or nobody will make it out of your room of tricks. This is a move that lasts for 5 turns, including the turn that it is used. And instead of doubling the speed of everything on your side of the field, it reverses turn order for 5 turns, meaning that the slowest Pokemon on the field will go first and the fastest will go lastest, at the expense of being a -7 priority move. Now, what does priority mean, you might be asking yourself? That is what we're going to get into right now. So we'll see here that priority is listed anywhere from being a +5 to a +7. Most moves, such as your traditional attacking moves, even a lot of your setup moves like Swords Dance and the like, are at a priority defaulted to 0. When considering how this is going to affect the turn order, priority bracket will be taken into consideration first before the speed stats. So moves like Extreme Speed, moves like what we're going to see right here, Protect, has a +4 priority, meaning that it is higher than any damaging move found in the game currently. So if you use Protect, you will go in that +4 priority bracket, and then your speed will take effect, meaning that almost every time you use this move, it will be first on the field. What does Protect exactly do? Well, it negates any move, including status effect moves that could be used against you, but drops in 50% accuracy every subsequent turn that it is used. So you'll notice that a lot of moves that have a higher priority have a bit of a gimmick to them. And another one that we can look at here is Wide Guard, another protecting move that doesn't protect against direct attacks, but rather Pokemon who wish to threaten everybody on the field, or even just both Pokemon on your side of the field. We have Wide Guard here, which is a version of Protect that will cover spread moves. Again, your moves like Dazzling Gleam that wish to attack both Pokemon on your side of the field. The caveat to this one is it does not stop single target attacks, and it is in the same priority bracket as a move like Fake Out, which can stun you for 1 turn as long as, you know, the speed makes sense there as well. Wide Guard can be used indefinitely. It does not have the same limitations of Protect, where the accuracy goes down with every subsequent use, but it does have a lower priority bracket. Another thing on how to control the speed of battle, we've gone over Tailwind and Trick Room already. You also have your moves like Icy Wind, Sticky Web, and Thunder Wave, which are a bit more of a permanent, longer lasting solution, where they will actually drop the speed stat of your opponent or whoever it does affect until they switch out of battle or are cured of that status ailment. Next up, we're going to want to consider our matchups. Check your opponent's lineup before every single game. In 2v2, you are only able to bring 4 Pokemon at a time. So even though you have 6 on your team, you're going to want to pick the 4 that most benefit you, what you're seeing across the field from you. Does your opponent have multiple physical attackers? Bring somebody on your team that has the physical bulk, or birth a litter of Incineroar and bring an ability like Intimidate to drop those physical attacking stats. Understand your opponent's stats and what common spreads are. If they have multiple physical walls, such as Zamazenta, bring your special attackers and make sure that those bulky raw stats simply do not matter on the field of battle. Be aware of the most common used moves, also moves that use or hit a different stat. Some examples of this are moves like Body Press, which even though it is listed as a physical attacking move, it is going to use your physical defense stat to calculate the damage rather than your physical attack stat. And on the flip side, a move like Psyshock, even though it is listed as a special attack, normally targeting the special defense of your opponent, this move will target the physical defense. So just make sure while building your team, you're taking a look at every way that the moves you are picking work. And don't be afraid to keep swiping left, you know, through your teams until you find your Tinderella in there. Team building is infinite in its possibilities, so take your time and make sure that the cohesion in your lovely little family is as tight-knit as it can possibly be. So next up, let's look at some ways to swing bad matchups into your favor. Not every battle is going to go in, and you're not going to have every single answer for every single question that your opponent is going to be able to ask you. Luckily, there are some ways to work around this. Number 1 being weather control. Even though our climate is a bit fainted at the moment, set the right climate for your team to give it any advantages or simply negate any disadvantages that the battle may bring to it. You want to have some fun in the sun? Use Pokemon that have the drought ability, or use moves like Sunny Day. It boosts fire type damage by 50%, lowers Hurricane's accuracy to 50%. It has water type attacks, so if you are primarily a fire or ground attack user, maybe something you'd like to consider. And it even plays well with abilities like Chlorophyll, doubling any Pokemon speed as long as the sun is up. Do you want to go dirty dancing in the rain, get a little wet, wild, and fun? Use things like Drizzle or the Rain Dance move. It boosts water type damage by 50%, raises Hurricane and Thunder's accuracy to 100%. On the flip side of the sun, it halves fire type damage coming your way, and it plays beautifully with abilities like Swift Swim, doubling the speed of any Pokemon inside of the rain with the ability. Big into EDM, make the Rude proud and use the weather effect Sandstorm. This can be used by abilities such as Sandstream or again the move Sandstorm itself. This has a few different effects in the weather that we have talked about already, where it boosts rock type Pokemon special defense by 50%, 1.5x. Also doing 1/16 of the health to all non-rock, ground, and steel type Pokemon on the field at the end of every turn. And much like our other speed boosting effects, we have the ability Sand Rush, which doubles Pokemon speed inside of a sandstorm. The last two weathers that we're going to talk about are a bit of one and the same. One has just simply replaced the other, but we are going to hail to the Ice King first, found up until Generation 9, where it would do 1/16 of the health to non-ice type Pokemon at the end of every turn. And again, it plays with abilities like Slush Rush. You guessed it, to double your Pokemon speed inside of the weather effect. And of course, lastly, there is Snow Place Like Home for the ice types, but the newly introduced Snow weather effect. It replaces Hail in Generation 9, and it now also boosts ice type Pokemon's defense by 50%, making it the ice type's version of Sandstorm for rocks. Next up, we want to talk a bit about terrains. Whenever we saw earlier that the Miraidon and the Indeedee were playing a bit of a guessing game, a little game of chess as to who was going to get their battlefield set more properly. The terrain is controlled by the last Pokemon to use a move or ability for it. So as we saw earlier, we had the Miraidon and the Indeedee, both placed in the second slot, but the Miraidon with the faster speed stat was able to set his terrain first, making Indeedee go second, thus overriding it. So usually speed is the killer. Speed is the most important stat in Pokemon battles, but relying on it too heavily is not always the answer. And in this case, we wanted our Indeedee to be slower. So terrain control, each terrain affects the flow of battle a bit differently. Think of it as your preferred vacation destination. All effects will be listed here, but I'm only going to go over the most relevant ones to the VGC. So feel free to pause the video as they pop up right next to me, as long as Future Smiggy remembers how to edit this video properly. First off, we have the electric terrain. Do you love exhilaration? Maybe make your experience electrifying, because that's Grease Lightning, baby. And no one under 30 understood that reference, but electric terrain is able to boost electric type attacks by 30%. As long as electric terrain is up, grounded Pokemon will be unable to be put to sleep. Useful against teams who run Amoonguss. And again, electric types are wholly unresisted by most things except ground, grass, and dragon, maybe one or two others. But it is a typing advantage that honestly runs pretty wild through the VGC at the moment. Next up is my favorite. Let's make things a little weird. It is the Psychic Terrain. If you would like to let your freak flag fly, make your vacation or the battlefield a weird one with Psychic Terrain. It boosts Psychic type attacks by 30%, and also all grounded Pokemon are no longer affected by priority moves that you use against your opponent specifically, making setup easier, making getting Trick Room onto the field easier. If you still want to use priority moves such as Helping Hand or Follow Me that do not directly affect your opponent, you are still free to use those with no interruption. Next up is grassy terrain. Touching grass can be as therapeutic as they say, so maybe make your terrain a soul-soothing one. Boosting grass type attacks by 30%, healing all grounded Pokemon by 1/16 of their health at the end of every turn, making moves like Grassy Glide have a +1 priority, and it also has the power of Earthquake, Bulldoze, and Magnitude. Last up, one of the least relevant terrains at the moment because no Pokemon has an ability that can set it, but that is Misty Terrain. Are you a fan of fairy tales? Maybe this is the one for you then. Make your destination a magical one by having the damage done by dragon type attacks, and you're able to avoid all status effects under this terrain. Next up, let's talk about how different status effects are able to affect the flow of battle. Are you perhaps not good enough to win all on your own? Well, try hacks and RNG. Honestly, it got me a world record in Pokemon Stadium once, and as long as, you know, your luck and your karma hasn't run out at this point in your life, maybe it can propel you all the way up to a world championship. Again, we're going to go over all of the ways that the status can affect the flow of battle here, but I'm only going to go over the most relevant aspects of it out loud. First off, we have poisoning. There are two different types of poison. There is normal, and there is badly poisoning your opponent. If your opponent is simply normally poisoned, it will deal 1/8 of its health at the end of every single turn. Now, when it is badly poisoned, it will deal 1/16 of its health at the end of the first turn. And I know what you're thinking, Smiggy. How is that better? Why is badly poisoned not as damaging as normal poison? And the reason for that being is when you're badly poisoned, it may start at that 1/16, but at the end of every subsequent turn, it adds an additional 1/16 health loss to the Pokemon afflicted by the status. So every single turn a Pokemon stays on the battlefield badly poisoned, it will gain 1/16 to 1/8. all the way up to being able to deal its entire health bar in one turn. Next up is paralysis. Ever wake up, slept wrong on your back or your neck, feel like you can't even get out of bed? Well, this is pretty much a similar effect to the Pokemon that it is afflicting. Having the speed of the Pokemon that is paralyzed and having a 25% chance to make sure that that Pokemon can't act during that turn at all. Next up is our burn status affliction. It does 1/8 of the health to the Pokemon it affects at the end of every single turn, and it is one of the most prevalent ways of slowing down the massive amount of physical attackers that we are seeing in the VGC meta right now by taking that physical attack stat, cutting it in half. We're slicing all prices right now for the remainder of the time that it has that status effect done to it. And burn, as opposed to stat drops, are unaffected by things like critical hits. So if you burn an Urshifu, even though it critical hits you all the time, it will not bypass that stat drop during this. Next up, something that we are going to see a lot with Darkrai now becoming viable in Regulation J is the sleep ability. We see it a lot with Amoonguss currently, but it does make sure that a Pokemon cannot act anywhere from 1 to 3 turns, even though whenever you do wake up, you are able to act that very turn, but it only takes 1 or 2 to swing the flow of battle in a way that is irreversible. So that is why you will see a lot of electric terrain right now to kind of combat that. Next up is the freeze status affliction. This makes sure that your Pokemon cannot act at all, with no way out, seemingly no light at the end of the tunnel, except for, honestly, when Lord Arceus decides that he wants to shine upon you and thaw you out of your ice prison at a 20% chance to thaw out each turn. And last but not least, we have confusion, which will last randomly between 2 and 5 turns, any recharge turns. So if you use a move like Blast Burn or Hyper Beam, it will not count that recharge turn as one of your turns of confusion. And it also has a 33% chance of the Pokemon that is confused damaging itself. How is that damage calculated? Well, it is based off of your physical attacking stat, and it is a 40 base power typeless move, meaning that it cannot be resisted by anything. It can also not be super effective against anybody, and it is not affected by abilities like Technician or moves like Life Orb. If your stats are raised because of Swords Dance or Swagger or things of that nature, well, you could be walking yourself into your own grave. The last thing I want to mention is type chart. This is going to be your best friend. Study it, learn it. It's your elemental chart of Pokemon, and without it, you will be lost on the battlefield, wandering like a nomad into being 0-2 in tournament, 0-3 depending on if it's Swiss or not, out of the tournament before you even begin your journey. Learn the effectiveness and the resistances of each type, and especially with dual typings, those quad resistances and those quad effectiveness will be your best friend going into battle. Now, while in battle, you'll want to understand that this is a giant game of chess. You want to think of every possible move that your opponent is able to make before you decide on what yours is. Whether it's switching out, if they're able to use Protect, or if they just used it and now no longer can. If you have a possibility of using a move like Follow Me to take off the pressure from your main attacker, help set up, which Pokemon might switch out, use your own future sight. Not the move itself, of course, but just think of every single possibility. Overwhelm your brain, honestly. Practice makes perfect, and the better you understand the DNA of your own team, the DNA of your opponent's team, the better you can control that flow of battle once again. Hopefully now you guys are able to understand a few of the basics of battling, and if not, then, well, I don't know what to tell you. This seemed like a pretty comprehensive overview, and go ahead and begin your journey to becoming the best that ever was. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It helps out a lot. I'll be doing more of these tutorial style videos down the line to teach you guys all of the basics you'll need to know to get into Pokemon VGC double battling. And that's all for today. Love you all. See you next time.